Hey everyone, it's Joe Waxman. This morning, I want to look at the chart of David Icke, conspiracy theorist. You guys, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you have not already. And guys, just bear with me. I have a little bit of a cold. That's why my eyes are tearing up. Sorry about that. It's no big deal. It's just irritating my face. You know how it is. It's kind of why I didn't do a video yesterday. I couldn't really keep my composure, coughing and blowing my nose too much. It's getting better, but I'm all right. Once or twice a year, this kind of thing happens. It's just a regular discharge. It's no big deal. It's not like nothing to be scared of when you get a cold. Don't need to test to find out if I have any so-called virus or anything like that. I just try and eat well and it'll go away. All right. So David Icke. All right, actually, I want to go to his Wikipedia because there's some interesting stuff about David. All right, so he grew up poor man, poor boy in England. And he was a soccer player, and then he got rheumatoid arthritis, and he had to stop playing. Then he was a news reporter, a sports reporter, sports broadcaster, and he got into media, journalism. Let's see. He got into alternative medicine, New Age philosophies to relieve his arthritis. And then he had some weird spiritual experiences, and he met a psychic. He started to feel like, let's see, voice got him toward some books, Mind to Mind, Betty Shine, Psychic Healer. He had a consultation, visited her 4 times. During the 3rd meeting, I claims to have felt something like a spider's web on his face. She had told him she had a message from Wang Yi Li, spirit of the spirit world. Icke had been sent to heal the earth, she said, and would become famous, but would face opposition. The spirit was going to pass ideas to him, which he would speak about to others. He would write 5 books in 3 years. In 20 years, a new flying machine would allow us to go wherever we wanted. And time would have no meaning. That doesn't seem accurate because it's already 20 years past that. Time still means something. And the only flying machines we have are airplanes. But they were there then. There will be earthquakes in unusual places. I love that. It's so vague. There will be earthquakes. Well, we've had earthquakes. Jesus, that's like Q level type predictions. Watch the water. Oh my God, there's something happened in the water. Right? There will be earthquakes in unusual places. Okay. For destabilize, having oil taken from under. I'm not saying that's not accurate. Maybe there were extra earthquakes, and maybe the earthquakes were caused by, the oil, maybe. But it's so vague, we don't really know. All right. And then he had another experience here. Kundalini, chakras, higher level of consciousness, all that. And then he had his turquoise period where he always dressed in this turquoise colors, but particularly this one turquoise jumpsuit, which looked really kind of bad in my opinion because it was turquoise, then it had a hot pink stripe. It was like really overly the top, like garish, kind of like you see in the 80s kind of thing, just like these clashing bright colors that are blinding. All right. He had been channeling for some time. He did some automatic writing, and he said he was the son of the Godhead, and he clarified that. He said we all are, but some people are I don't know. I guess maybe he felt like he had a message, and therefore he was more similar like to Jesus. And this actually got there was a Wogan interview. Wogan, I guess, is like a British talk show host, and he really kind of humiliated him. I mean, I think if you actually watch it on YouTube, which you can, Icke handles himself pretty well. but he was pretty mean. I guess he was kind of mean. He was, he's like, they're not laughing with you, they're laughing at you, that kind of thing. Because and I kind of brought it upon himself because he was saying like stuff like, I don't know, he compared himself to Jesus, and he said the world was going to end, and none of that was true. Um, so, and then he became a laughing stock. He became, people really, in England's not, I mean, it's much more local, I guess, I don't know, I guess it's still pretty big, but anyway, people knew him on the street and would laugh at him. And it led to a difficult period for Ike. People gathered around in his house chanting, "We want the Messiah. Give us a sign, David." So, and that was his first taste, I guess, of being like this outsider who was making all this crazy, statements, predictions. But he went on to do more, and then he promoted some anti-Semitic type stuff with, especially in some of his books, the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, which is a fictional propaganda work used by Nazis to demonize the Jews, and he promoted it as being factual, and that's really awful. That is distasteful and inaccurate, right? No, there is no grand Jewish plot to take things over. At least I was never invited, and nobody I know was. I mean, it doesn't really work that way, guys. Jews believe all different kinds of things, right? And even the Khazarian mafia type stuff is false, because Khazarian, if they were ever a mafia, that's just a term. They didn't call themselves a mafia, by the way. I just want to say this about the Khazarian mafia. They were a cognate. They were a business type trade group, made from many different, composed of many different people, ethnicities, and then some of them did change to Judaism, some of them changed to Christianity, some changed to Islam, because they were sort of forced to. They were in the part of the old world, and then they pretty much died off. Like, they're obviously their genetic links, but the genetics were all different. They came from all different countries, and that was like what, around like 1200 AD. And so like, how do you get that from, like supposedly the Rothschilds are Khazarians, but how did anyone do a DNA test? Do you really know that the Rothschilds are Khazarians? Like, it's that kind of thing. Like, people are making these loose connections and saying it's fact. It's not fact at all. The Khazarians have not been proven to exist in the modern day world, or to have any significant role, right? We don't even know who the Khazarians are anymore. Like, we can't just say like the European Jews are Khazarians, because that's not true. The Jews have a precedence all on their own. They were in Europe before the Khazarians, right? They have their own history, and so it's complete. A lot of the stuff is just nonsense. In any case, it's similar to this, so that's why I brought it up. Protocols of the Elders of Zion, Khazarian type mafia. It's nonsense, right? There are obviously, malicious Jews who have a lot of power, but they're malicious Christians, malicious Muslims. I mean, malicious Hindus. I mean, it's ridiculous. Oh, let's focus on the Jews. It's ridiculous. Yeah, conspiracy by the Jewish people to achieve global domination. We're doing a great job. There's only 15 million Jews after about 4,000 years of history. We're doing awesome as far as taking over the world, right? We've been persecuted, murdered, and forced to change religions. And that's why there's only 15 million. In any case, blah blah blah, Zionist, blah blah blah, Zionist crap. It's nonsense. Israel already exists, okay? And it's because Jews were persecuted, they need their own state. So, and Jews have a long history in the Middle East. That's just factual. And Israel and the whole area. Anyway, so yeah, he was banned from many countries for his anti-Semitic views. Rightfully so, because he's not accurately, I mean, if he's promoting, first of all, we know he's delusional, because he said the world would end way back when. It didn't, you know. Maybe that's a mischaracterization, because you know, Wikipedia is biased. It's not like real, you know, authentic media, journalism rather. And but you know, promoting the protocols of the elders of Zion, that is fictional. So that's also. But let's get into his astrology. All right, so he has a Taurus sun in the 7th house, clearly, right? And so Taurus sun obviously is you know, it's very stubborn, sensual. Taurus do make good leaders because they're so firm. They're so like, you know, they're just like rocks. They can be really strong in a lot of areas, but they're simple type people, and they're very they like to reduce ideas into simple formats. And sun in the 7th house is good for being on stage. It's good for getting recognized, for performance, for things like that, because the ego, the brightness of the sun is coming out towards the masses, towards other people. It's not so good for relationships, because there's too much ego, tends to burn the relationship, and they can't really see the other people well. But for being on stage, for really presenting yourself towards lots of people. And so for, you know, what he did, being a journalist, being a spokesperson, and then moving into sort of, you know, conspiracy theory and all that stuff, he was the one who said that the royal family were lizards, were reptilians and shapeshifters, and that a lot of these other people are. I'm not saying he's right. I'm not saying he's wrong. But we'll get into like all the reasons why. And so we'll get a better idea of what's really going on here. So Sun is ruling his MC. So that's quite good, because this is actually 10th from the 10th. If you count 1, 2, 3, blah, 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 10. So 10th from the 10th is the 7th. So 10th is public image. 7th is the masses. Excuse me. Sorry. My nose is leaking. That's good for career. That's good for, you know, gaining attention, being out in the public, shining the light. Right, and that's actually pretty square. So it's, at least it's making contact. Square's not great, but it's making contact with the MC, so that is good. Okay. Moon is in Cancer, so it's in good dignity in the 9th house, and it's conjunct Uranus. So that's really what we want to look at. You know, for somebody who is very conspiratorial, we want to see Uranus, Aquarius, and 11th house. Some combination of that. And we do have the Aquarius here with the North Node. No 11th house planets, but in any case. So Moon conjunct Uranus in Cancer. So Moon in Cancer, he's, you know, probably a good relationship with the mother. There's nothing really, let's see. Oh, Mercury. Okay, we'll get to that. Okay, Mercury, Chiron. And obviously, okay, a little square to Saturn, a little wide. So there are some difficult aspects, but generally, and he was born poor, grew up poor, without much money, so that might explain it. But generally, a loving mother, caring mother, religious, spiritual type views, because 9th house, especially with Uranus here. Now, Uranus in the 9th house alone is going to give very it's, first of all, it'll change the religious views, the philosophical views, as a person ages and gets older. which did happen, but it's also going to radicalize them. I mean, these aren't just, you're not just going to switch from, like, I don't know, Protestantism to Catholicism. I don't even know Christianity very well, but I'm just saying, like, the Uranus is going to make very exotic type philosophical and religious beliefs, especially conjunct the moon. Now, Uranus conjunct the moon is really going out there. Like, the moon, it's not as easy. Well, easy. I don't think Uranus is easy in any position, but the moon is more sensitive. But I think because it's in really good dignity here in Cancer, that it's able to maintain its sort of mental stability with Uranus, because Uranus, if the moon is not in good dignity, Uranus can really make a person a bit crazy, right? Because Uranus represents the nervous systems, it's extremes, it's like electric, like being plugged into an electric outlet, right? It's just it gives a lot of good ideas, but it can be really intense, and it can be very negative if it's not, depending on other factors, right? Aspect, sign, placement, all that. Right, like I have Uranus conjunct the ascendant, and I do have nerve problems, right? So it can do that. It can cause problems. Robin Williams had Uranus conjunct his ascendant Lord Mars, right? And he had Lewy body disease and died young-ish. In any case, so this is making him much more conspiratorial, much more radical, philosophical, spiritual, radical ideas, ideologies, beliefs, thought systems. He's really out there. His mind is just going to the extreme, not in a bad way, but nonetheless. His moon is out of bounds too, right? It's at 26 degrees. That's pretty far out of bounds. So he's an extreme thinker, and for good or bad, both, right? His mind is just going to the way out far as possibilities. I mean, who else is saying, the Queen's a lizard, right? It's David Icke. That's synonymous with David Icke. Whether it's true or not, I don't know, right? Like, I'm not going to just completely say, no, he's wrong, because guess what? There are weird things out there in the world, but I can't verify it either. And he's got a lot of difficult aspects, right? Just going back to the sun. Sun opposite Mars. Mars is in Scorpio, so it's in good dignity, but it's still in opposition. And Sun in conjunct exactly in exalted Saturn. And so he's meeting a lot of opposition. He's meeting a lot of conflict. And even if we look at the moon, but just we'll stick to here for a minute. He was expelled from countries, right? So he's gaining a lot of attention, right? Ascendant Lord, Sun, MC Lord Sun in the 7th house in Taurus, right? So he's very well, he's very visible. His personality is very visible, comes out, right? As opposed to Sun in the 8th house, which would mean it's more hidden, like mine. Now he's got an exalted Saturn in Libra in the 12th quadrant, even though it's in the first whole sign house. It's still pulling in a lot of 12th, especially because the degree separation from the ascendant, that is beyond 15 degrees. That is, I guess 16. Yeah. No. 18. Sorry. 18 degrees. Well, 12th house is foreign lands, right? And so this in conjunct and Saturn in Libra shows kind of law, dignified law. So like the law is at odds with David and his career, his personality, his career, his public image. They banned him, 12th house, foreign lands, right? This in conjunct. And as well, Mars in Scorpio, it's just opposition. He's making enemies. He's coming into a lot of conflict. This has happened again and again and again, right? And he keeps denying these claims of anti-Semitism. But when he's promoting, and I think he changed and he stopped and reflected, and he's like, okay, maybe I can't talk about this or do that or that, maybe this isn't right. And it should be, because Protocols of the Elders of Zion is propaganda to murder Jews. That's what that is. So it is a pretty heinous crime to be like, oh, this is real and the Jews are plotting to take over the world. What are you, Hitler? I mean, get over it. Like, we tried that. It didn't go over so well. Killed 6 million Jews, and what do you want to do? Kill the rest? I mean, what? No, it's ridiculous and it's nonsense. And it's not unique to Jews. I mean, religions, all of them fight. Sometimes people like to say, oh, the Jews, people are always against the Jews. People are always against each other. People don't like each other, in case you haven't noticed. People don't like things that are different. The Muslims fight with the Hindus and the Christians and the Jews and anyone else. The Christians fight with the Jews and the Muslims and the Hindus. The Hindus fight with the Buddhists and the Muslims and the sheiks and whoever else, right? They all fight each other. That's the way it goes with religions. So it's not unique. Everyone hates the Jews. Everyone hates the Jews because they're small and they're easy to pick on, right? You can criticize the Jews, and the only backlash you'll face is maybe like the ADL, but you're not going to face a ton of backlash from the very tiny amount of Jews who know to keep their mouth shut, because it's a losing battle. In any case, I mean, he's, I got to bring in the Jews just because it's like Protocols of Elders of Zion. Geez, really, grow up. In any case, he is attracting a lot of negativity towards himself, but he's also fighting, right? Mars is ruling the 6th house cusp as well as the 7th quadrant, anyway. So he's a fighter because it's coming to him, right? And that's sports, right? We saw that, he started out as sports and then moved into sports broadcasting, and then conspiracy theory type stuff with a tinge of spirituality. And so he's got a Libra ascendant with Neptune pretty close to the ascendant. That is 8 degrees. So that's very much influencing his ascendant. And that's where he's getting all this fantasy stuff. With Neptune, you really got to double, triple, quadruple check yourself, because the fantasies work their way in, and you don't want to spout off things that aren't true, like the world's ending and the Jews are plotting to take over the world. That's not only inaccurate, it's offensive and stuff like that, but he is getting a lot of spirituality influence there from that. The automatic writing, there's various spiritual experiences. So Neptune is very influential with David Icke. That's where he gets like the part of the reason, like the moon and Uranus, and then Neptune conjunct the ascendant is the other part of the sort of craziness, the wackiness. And I mean no disrespect, right? Believe me, I don't hate David Icke. I do appreciate him for trying to wake people up to the reality of things. It's just that I think he does, or at least has in the past, gotten some things inaccurate and has leaned too much into the Jew hatred stuff, which I don't like. I mean, why would I like that? Right. All right. Let's see here. So Mars is ruling the 6th house, going to the 1st. So that's fighting, because Mars is good dignity, so like sports, but like 6th house has Mercury in Aries and Venus in Aries. And that is inspirational, by the way, especially with Mercury in Aries, but it helps with Venus in Aries too, because Aries is the fire starter, right? It's the spark. So Aries has this ability to inspire other people, because it can light their passion. Aries can spread passion. That's one of the things that Aries is really good at. And you'll often see very motivational speakers with Libra ascendants, because Aries is on the descendant, and then if there's planets there supporting that, they can be very inspiring speakers. And the 6th house is still a house of others. It's service to others. And so it's still playing that role, but it's moving into the 7th house because he's got Sun and Jupiter here. So it's 6 to 7. So it's carrying in the competitive nature of the 6, and that's probably why he started out as a sports broadcaster. and then moved into conspiracy theory. He's still being competitive, right? He's still talking about enemies. He's still talking about the bad guys, the lizards, and all whatever else he talks about. He's a bright guy. I'm not in any way dissing his intelligence or anything like that. Like, I listened to him. He said some good stuff. He said some not so good stuff, but he said some good stuff, and he's inspiring, and people like him. And right. He's got Mercury here. Mercury is 11th and 8th, and that's bringing in a little bit of difficulty, but ultimately it works out for him because 8th lord is in the 6th house. These are both malefic houses, and that's generally considered a good combination for an 8th lord, especially if it's not in good dignity. I mean, like, the best is like if Mercury was here in the 8th house, that would protect the 8th house. That would be good, right? But it's an okay sign of Aries, but it's in the 6th, so that's also good. So that it brings conflict, but the conflict works out, right? It generally works out because it's sort of like 6 in the 8th. It's sort of like a death to conflict. Death is coming into conflict, so it's he comes into conflict, but it works out. Like the Wogan interview is like kind of ridiculed him, but he handled it well, and it probably boosted his career a lot, right? So stuff like that. Mercury is also square the moon and Chiron, moon opposite Chiron, Uranus opposite Chiron. And that is a that is a difficult, first of all, it's third quadrant, but it is 4th whole sign house. But let's call it third. So he's bringing he's causing pain, and he's also getting a lot of pain and rejection from this Chiron, public rejection, being an outsider, an outcast, unusual type, slightly scientific, because Chiron can be quite scientific. He's an oddball. He's kind of an oddball. And this is very odd because it's Uranus and Chiron in aspect to the moon, square Mercury. So it's relating to his expression. He's saying all sorts of crazy, weird, wild stuff. Some people have a big problem with that. Others love it. But it's definitely related to his communications, because Mercury and 3rd house, right? And then, his beliefs, his spiritual, religious, philosophical beliefs, all that. He doesn't have an easy chart, I'll tell you that. He's probably been ridiculed more than anyone, but he's a fighter, and he wants to fight, and he's also hurt a lot of people, through his allegations of, his Jew hatred, which he's probably, I don't really consider him like I say that, but it's just like a subtle thing that he's probably had to work on. Nobody comes perfect, and I'm, certainly not myself, and I don't mean to cast, but it is what it is. Like, I think he did have that element, and he's probably worked on it over the years because he's come under a lot of fire for it, rightly so. Yeah, you can't demonize a whole group, and Kanye is learning that lesson as well. You cannot demonize. It's not the Jews. You have to remember, it's not the Jews. That it's not like particularly you can't demonize any group. You just don't do that. It's inhumane. And I'm not saying that everybody who has attacked David, or who is attacking Kanye, is coming from a pure place. They're not. But at least they know that they have to protect that for whatever, because otherwise it's ruined. Like, you just can't do that, like, to any group, right? Blacks, Asians, Latino, whatever, Muslim, you can't demonize a group, because it's just obvious. People are all different in any case. What else? All right, he's got a South Node conjunct Pluto. I think Pluto's stationary, just about. It's going station in one day after his birth, going station. So that's a very powerful Pluto. It's right there in the 10th house in Leo. very prominent, very powerful, very destructive as well. And it's south node. It's not super close, 8 degrees, but still it's close enough. And yeah, let's see. South node, Pluto, 10th house shows that there is a certain destiny here about being having a powerful career. And he met a psychic who said he had a special destiny, and I believe that. Right, I believe he's meant to help waken people up, and he needed to evolve and mature and refine his message, stop being so destructive with what he's saying, but definitely getting out to the world, making a noise, making an impact for sure. And then North Node in Aquarius in the 4th quadrant, 5th whole sign house, but because it's such a late degree, I'll consider this 4th house. North Node in the 4th house is concerned with land, homeland, home, politics, the people of the homeland. And so he is representing his people. He likes to represent his people. And that could be tied into sort of, the Jewish conspiracy theory type stuff, maybe. Aquarius is very conspiratorial. Aquarius is very political and social. And he could do something like with brick and mortar and land if he wanted to. He could go into politics, although I think, yeah, no, he couldn't go into politics, obviously, for other reasons. He's tarnished his reputation too much. I mean, he's banned from entire nations, right? For the pretty gross, sort of, conspiracy theories about Jews. But in any case, I mean, he's got so much red lines here. But yeah, but he does care for the people. He does represent the people, the homeland, all that. I think I believe that David Icke means well. I just think he's a little confused, and he's sorting himself out. I haven't heard anything objectionable from him, from the stuff I've heard more recently. He's got Mars, Trine, Moon, and Uranus. And that's good for, like, I mean, this Mars is a fighting Mars. It's ruling the 6th house. It's in Scorpio. So he really is, he's a fighter. He's going against the grain. It's retrograde. And he's a protector because it's in good relationship to Moon, which is more vulnerable. And yeah, he's fighting, his fight is in harmony with his it's satisfying for him, it's emotionally fulfilling, he loves it, obviously, and it's in harmony with the Uranus as well. So it works out. That's like, that helps him out a lot. Pluto, let's see. Pluto's not really making much. Pluto is sextile Neptune. That's good. I mean, that's even like more far out there, more wild, and potentially it's helping Pluto be in touch with his imagination. So deep, powerful imagination, going very deep into things. Let's see here. Saturn is square Uranus. This is a very rebellious square. I have it. He's basically like really fighting against authority. Yeah. I mean, gotta hand it to him. I mean, with so much red lines, like he's just massively taking on a huge fight with everyone, with the whole power structure. I mean, Saturn. Let's see what's Saturn's ruling the third and fourth. It's going into 12th, going to secret things, his joy, his desire, his early childhood. Because fourth house lord is what we love, and third house is our intellect, our communication. So it's going into the 12th in a good way, because it's exalted into secret hidden things, right? But then that's square his own moon and Uranus. So it's creating a lot of rebellion, friction, internal struggles, and opposition to law. And at the same time, with the square to Mercury, because both Saturn and Mercury are both ruling his expression, because Mercury is the natural significator, and Saturn's ruling the third house. So his expression often, with these squares, it kind of it betrays his spiritual values, because I've heard him speak about spirituality, but then he comes on so aggressive and so potentially kind of like hard, or let's say negative, but like there's something very a lot of friction and tension within the way within his how he comes across and how he expresses himself, how he explains things, because it's not really coming through with this it's going against this moon. I feel this moon in Cancer, which is much more caring and loving and intuitive, even spiritual, here in the ninth house. So there is some friction there. Like if you just listen to him speak, it's almost shocking when he talks about like love and spirituality. You're like, wow, I agree with that, but it doesn't feel, I'm not getting that when you're talking, so there is a lot of tension there. So many squares. I mean, this is pretty much a grand fixed square, or it's cardinal square, grand cardinal square. It's light here, but it's still there. And these are opposite as well. Saturn opposite Mercury. Who else had a grand square? Oh yeah, Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson had the air trine, grand air trine, and a grand fixed square. And so he has a grand mutable square. So these people are just constantly at odds, butting heads, getting into trouble, and being stubborn, obstinate, fighting the man, going against the grain, being rebels. Ascendant trine north node, that's fine. I don't place much emphasis on that. There's a light trine between Chiron and the sun and Uranus. That's quite good, for the just adding to the brilliance, the out of the box thinking. Let's see here. Node and Venus trine. It's good. Let's see, Venus is the ascendant lord. I didn't even think about that. Venus is the ascendant lord. It's going pretty much conjunct the descendant. So relationships are really important to him, and the masses, connecting with the masses. And Jupiter in the seventh. I have Jupiter in the seventh in Taurus. Jupiter in the seventh really loves to help people. He loves to help other people. And I think that's one of the big things that he has really going for him is Jupiter. People feel like he cares about them, especially with Venus here as well. He's benevolent towards others, especially in one-on-one, but like just generally as well in the masses. Jupiter Jupiter's ruling the 5th house and the 2nd house, so that's good. You know, the speech for the 2nd house, speech, knowledge, teaching. 5th house, education, entertainment. 5th house is just generally a really good house because it's trying the ascendant, although this Pisces is not trying. Aquarius would be. It's trying Scorpio though, which is most of the 1st house, so we'll give it a pass. Yeah, Venus is ruling the 7th. It's, I guess, yeah, 7th in the 7th, but also in the 6th. It's playing in some 6th house stuff, and they're, you know, conflict, soccer, competition, all that, enemies, things of that nature. So let's pull up his Draconic. I don't know if there's going to be much here. Okay, well, Saturn in Scorpio right above Mars in Scorpio. This is it's going to intensify this because Saturn and Mars together are quite the combination, often associated with cruelty or violence, but Saturn gives a lot of structure to Mars. This is already a strong Mars, so this is a very, very strong Mars. He's a very strong fighter. Like, he fights. He lives to fight. David Icke. Fight the man. Fight the powers that be. Expose corruption and all that. Let's see, Mars and Sag in the 2nd. Let's just look for conjunctions. Mercury in Taurus, not too far from the sun, adding to you know, the connection with the masses, others, the outer world, all that. Venus is in Taurus. That's quite good. 8th house in Gemini, so adding to the experience. What did it say? The conspiracy type stuff. You know, the hidden secrets. Jupiter and Gemini as well. Jupiter and Gemini is not great, but Jupiter in general is good. Let's see, Moon and Uranus in Leo in the 10th house, pretty close to Pluto. That's very prominent, you know, for getting out his message and public, being in the public eye, all that. Here we're getting some 11th house activity, which I said before was one of the things that about, you know, sort of conspiracy theory type stuff, because it's Aquarius original house. Not that everything 11th house would lead to conspiracy theory, obviously, definitely not, but it's one addition, one thing that you can look for among others. Uranus, Aquarius, Scorpio, 8th house, things of that nature. Pluto, right? South node Pluto, right? Let's see, Moon is the strongest planet. Moon, Mars, Saturn, those are his 3 strongest planets. And I can't think of anything else to say. South node conjunct Pluto would also bring in very deep thinking and psychological awareness, right? And all other 8th house stuff. So like all the secrets and hidden things as well. So yeah, guys, that's David Icke. I think I spent long enough going over his chart to paint the picture of what's going on well enough. Yeah, not easy. It's definitely not easy for him. He's in constant conflict with himself, with others, with the world. But he's a fighter. He's a tremendous fighter, and he doesn't give up. So, all right, guys, that's it for now. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, leave a comment if you like, and book a reading with me. it's a good idea to get a reading with me. I'm selling myself. So macro gold machine at yahoo.com. That's my email. Macroastrology.com is my website. Check it out. Book a reading, and I will see you guys again soon. All right, thanks. Bye.